Hello and welcome back to Stitching with the Stitching Owl. Yes, this is a channel all about cross-stitching and all of the fun that we have with needles and threads in hand. And today is actually March the 16th. And yes, you're right, I am a day early this time. So last time I was a day late because we had a busy family weekend. And this weekend, we're celebrating Christmas. And you're like, I don't even, are we early or late? And the answer to that is, this is the first time we've had since fall to see my middle child. But I didn't want to actually wait until like Monday or Tuesday to do this video. So here I am, and this is an experiment. I normally spend quite a bit of time on regularly throughout the week. When I have ideas, I jot them in my notebook that I keep at my stitchy spot. And then those become the ideas for what I say on my Flosstube. And I decided this time that instead of actually writing out, like I have been pretty much rehearsing an entire thing and trying to do it as much as I can word for word. And I'm wondering about how much material will I miss telling you if it's more off the cuff and a little bit less read. I prefer not to be reading to you. I'd like to just talk with you as the friends that you have become. So it's a little bit different today. I thank you all for being here. If you are new, I'm so glad you came across me. I'm in London, Ontario, and yes, I too am addicted to floss and linen and cotton and just stitching with friends. Here's my pop. Wow. So this is my 17th Flosstube, and you have come quite a ways with me with a number of projects. You've seen some finish, and we have some that are in long term and some that are constantly just hello, I'm finished type thing. So I have a little bit of everything here. I want to say thank you to the Stitching Past My Bedtime gals. Yes, Kathy and Karen. They gave me another mention on their last Flosstube, and I continue to have a lot of fun stitching with them. And yes, it is often the middle of the night, and thus it is past my bedtime. So, very appropriately named gals. I want to say a hearty happy birthday. Now it's a little bit late for Elizabeth Savory, but a week ago we were wishing her happy birthdays through Instagram and things like that. And I know that she had a good day. I am looking forward to her next video that sort of does, this is what happened. But I'll be talking a little bit more about Elizabeth a little later. So her birthday was on the 9th, and on the 22nd we have Carolyn Zook's birthday. So C Zook Stitches, and yes, we all know who Carolyn is and what a wonderful instigator, inspiration to future spending for so many people. She is so friendly and so happy to help you. That you should find yourself buying something so that you can practice helping, because after all, she's helped us, right? And of course, she also works with the Magazine Monthly Challenge group on Facebook. And once a month, she is a co-hosting of a Zoom, which is very nice of her to give to us. So, a couple of birthdays that are significant, because every birthday is significant. I will say that when it came to Carolyn, I'm not starting anything with Carolyn on Carolyn's birthday, but in April, likely earlier, but we'll see how life treats us with schooling and marking and all the rest of that stuff. We are going to be joining into a stitch along of a Herschel from the Stitching Mommy. If you'd like to check out Herschel, she has 2 patterns up and she's working on a 3rd one. So yes, I want to stitch a different pattern than Carolyn has chosen, and I want to see the 3rd one. She's madly trying to get something done so that she feels comfortable releasing it. So I'm waiting for that pattern. We're waiting for school to calm down for Carolyn. We're waiting for spring to come and get rid of all of the germs that everybody seems to have. Okay, so as the heads up, I'm so sorry to disappoint. My husband is at work. He cannot make any cameo appearances today, but he does miss you and hopes to be back next time. It was so cute that he was thinking of you as he was leaving. I want to give a shout out for Laura of Lala D. She's on Flosstube. She's a gifted stitcher and quilter, and just generally you will always feel like you're chatting with your best friend when you pop on one of her videos. She has, many people have a wide range of interests, but I find hers are really wide ranged, from something that's just downright beautiful to something that's downright cute, something that's reminds her of her love for science fiction and watching those shows with her husband. Like, there's something for everybody there, and I just always look forward to her videos. For the most part, what she has chosen to do is to divide her videos and to announce to you whether it's a Flosstube or a quilt tube, so that if you're interested in both, you simply have double the pleasure, but that if you're only interested in one side of that, that you don't have to try and skip through and find that spot where she's talking exactly about your favorite topic. So Laura is definitely well worth a watch, and certainly I feel like a dinosaur. She's still very young, and yeah. Oh, to be back and have that many patterns to look forward to doing. I keep thinking I'm going to run out of time to do everything. Okay, so new section for today, just before we get into stitching, is that I want to do a stitching share moment, so Stitcher Shares, where I share with you pictures of stitches or things that people have made that are not by me. I had a bit of a go back and forth with a lovely stitcher, and I asked whether I could see some of what she's stitching, and she was like, sure, here's a whole bunch of the stuff. You know, I love watching your ornaments, and here's some of mine, but I like the big stuff, and here's one of these. And Trudy, it was just so fantastic. My youngest has assured me that yes, I will be taught how to put a slideshow of Trudy's works in here. So I'm thrilled. We saw everything from little to that bear looked full coverage, and I'm hoping has like a place of honor on somebody's wall, because that was some serious stitching for sure. So just thank you, Trudy. I really appreciate you reaching out via email and sharing your photos and being my first stitcher to celebrate in my stitching shares. section. So I do hope that at least one other person will go, huh, I wonder if I could send even one picture. It can be one picture, it can be many pictures. And honestly, it doesn't have to be fully finished. I know we just saw pieces really well done. You're going to find later on I'm going to be inviting you to send me a picture of like some blank material because I just want to see where you're starting with something. I love collecting pictures and I love sharing with you. Okay, so now we are actually going on with the show. I feel like I'm a cartoon. And so we're going to be going through our normal headings at this point. And I'm going to wonder whether I brought absolutely everything. Possibly not, but oh well. So the first category I always do is fully finished items. And I hope you're all sitting down. I don't have any to give you. I lost the weekend 2 weekends ago, and I lost this weekend for my fully finishing, and that made it so I just didn't get anything beyond what I sent out in my Send a Smile program done. I think I forgot to mention that there are 2 more Send a Smiles out in the mail, and that, yes, the Sunshine Stitchers did give a quick peek at the ornaments that I sent them on the video that has been recorded in the last 24 hours. So again, I invite you to see and watch the Sunshine Stitchers, and feel free to start at the beginning and work your way through. They have so much to show. And thank you for thanking me. Oh, that sounds funny, doesn't it? But I so like it when the purpose of that happens. They smiled. And the ones I made them don't have to be saved for Christmas. They certainly can be ornaments on a Christmas tree. But if you have any other of the trees that you're celebrating, you can do that. You can put them on door knobs, like tiny knobs to places you don't open because they're up high and things like that. There's different things you can do with those ornaments and not have them fading in the light. Thank you again. Okay, so I have no fully finish. I'm glad that if you fainted, you're back with me. I had 16 floss tubes in a row with a new fully finish. Oh well, maybe I'll have something special up my sleeve for next week. We'll see. So that means we're going on to finish. And I'm going to say this isn't a big category either. That what I have here is Marching to Easter. And this is a Twin Peaks primitive. Is this not beautiful? And yes, I am going to, I think I'm going to make it into something that you can hang. It's a little bit big for an ornament, but it's absolutely darling. And I decided not to do it 1/1 on 25. This is a 32 count. This is Snow Cap by Pal Stitches, and I was using DMC. Did I follow the ever so wise suggestions of Twin Peaks Primitive? I didn't even look at their list. I'm trying not to undo any of the kits that I've got active right now. So I simply go to my boxes that are my not in use floss and say, what will work? And so that's what I came up with here. Now, this is out of an Easter ornaments book. They have one each year, and I know that some people might say, oh, that's a PDF that's over $30. And I go, yeah, but you get at least 12 pictures in there. I mean, they're ornaments of varying sizes, but often if we go to an LNS, a book of ornaments is at least $8. And sometimes we only get one ornament at a time. So I don't think $33 Canadian was too bad for an entire Easter book. And so last year I made one, so I made one this year. I love the fact that we had a little horn in the mouse's mouth. He was doing the brass band of the parade, and he has tails, the bunny has tails. And for this one, I used this also for let me see. So Laura has a floss tube. Yes, she's got a lovely floss tube, and she's got a Facebook, Stitching by the Shore. Both use the same name. And within the Facebook, she has a challenge that is an I Spy challenge. And so she puts up 10 things at the beginning of the month and says, so do you think you can find these things in some of your whips so that you'll stitch on something that actually fills this in? There are no prizes, so you don't have to go all out and get all 10 months in a row thinking she'll notice you. Yes, she'll notice you whether she checks out the website all of the time. But one of the prompts was something with stripes. Now, I was having a bit of a problem with this because I knew I was going to have to start something and I didn't want it to be big. So if we look, that bumblebee and this bumblebee has stripes. And there you go, Laura, something with stripes. And I think I opted for B5200 for the white for DMC, in part because I had a skein that was just sitting there unopened, and also because it popped nicely on this like iceberg background that I had used for my prairie birds. And yes, I realize I promised the 10th prairie bird for today, and it'll have to be next time. So that was my finishes. So again, yeah, and you're thinking, not even your daughter? And I'm like, no, I gave her bigger projects this time, so it's going to take her longer. And she's studying for exams and psychology and things like that. So she's using her stitching as her way of easing tension, which is exactly how I've used it over the years, and how many of you use it. It's very medicinal. No side effects. Well, maybe one. Your pocketbook might get a hit. Okay, so that means we are to whips. And what I wanted to start with is my Faith Songbird by Cottage Garden Samplings. So this was one of those series where they put out a new bird, a songbird series, one a month. And they had a single word on it, like joy or love, or in this case, faith. Now, that doesn't look like it's all that much stitching, does it? It's cute. There's more stitches in these than you would think. And for me, I like to stitch it a little bit on the smallish side. So I started on 32 and then gave that up and restarted. And I have it on 20 count. And this week you'll notice that I have more than green. I have my swoop with my bluebells. Those are beautiful. And I've got the tummy and the tail of my blue jay. Now, I haven't fully decided how I'm going to swoop my last leaf and whether there's going to be another bluebell here coming from this side, whether it continues over. This is inspired by Cottage Garden Samplings, but reworked. And as always, thank you, Kim, for the Contented Needleworker Kim, for always being the first to champion, this is your stitch, do it your way. It'll still be beautiful. So she adds, she subtracts, and she's got me doing it too. Okay, so that's the first whip. Now, I forgot to say that this is being stitched now on 20 count Ada, is called Cloud Break, and it is from Roxy Floss Co. at Evertote here in London, Ontario. I'm holding it upside down. Watch that be one of the thumbnails. Just watch. So this is a lovely, lovely piece, and I'm glad that I'm going to have more fabric to play with after that one's done. And I'm just using one strand of DMC and called for DMC colors. And so the next thing that I have is Dragon Keeping Time. Now this is designed, you find it on Cute Patterns by Maria on Etsy, and I'm using it for Year of the Dragon Sal, which is being hosted, that was the word I wanted, by Erika of Fibers and Floss Canada, and Samantha, the Hugo Stitcher, and she's in Winnipeg, I believe, in Saskatchewan. So they know that at the Lunar New Year we were changing to the Year of the Dragon, and that there is a marvelous array of dragons available for the stitcher, from small to large, from monochrome as a straight black on dramatic fabric to max colors through heaven and earth designs. And what the Erika and Samantha are doing, they are actually doing Teresa Wentzler, thank you. Teresa Wentzler patterns, which previous to us knowing the term maximum colors, Teresa's patterns could have more than one page of floss needed. And within that, you would discover that you had so many different little symbols. And this predated it being available on an iPad or anything. She used blends. So yes, she would have used 223 here and 224 there and white there, but somewhere along the line there's also going to be a white with 223, a white with 224 and 23 and 2024 going together. It's so detailed. So, and they want to do it all in a year. It's quite the undertaking, and I was like, I'm not up for that. I love the pictures. I foolishly gave away a book that's really worth something it was a complete Teresa Wentzler book with patterns. It was thick. I didn't keep it. I wish I had. Yes, I do wish I had. So I went with something smaller, though, that was going to come in less than 11 by 14. And so with this, I had so many dragon pictures to pick from. What was my criterion? My criterion was that all dragons have wings, because my husband says so, and that the truly amazing dragon will be purple, because my husband says so. His favorite color is purple, and he loves dragons. He has many carved dragons. So I was looking for a purple dragon, and I know you were all saying, and Karen, you love playing with color, and I'm like, yes, but I didn't want a marvelously shaded dragon to not look as beautiful, because I can't nuance that level of colors. But thank you for thinking it. So mine is Dragon Keeping Time, and you can see I've made really good progress here. So dragon's head, one arm. You can see the elbow with the other arm. This still looks like a champagne glass, doesn't it? But I am opening it up. I thought, oh, if it looks like there's a little sand down here. I'm like, yeah, but it still looks like it's the bottom of a champagne glass, because it even looks like there's a little bit of gold rim around the top of this. The pattern is absolutely amazing. When I do this, with this this is Rumbling Thunder 32 count Murano Lagana by Pell Stitches Designs. Does that not have three-dimensional effect? Now, this, and like this is the beginning of wings. So it looks like she's got a claw, or he's got a claw. It will be logical next time. There's a little village on his back that's ingeniously just tucked in there that you can see a little bit of the green of. You can see some gold dripping out. Now, this really is the bottom. And so this will go up to here. So you can see I truly did pick something that was smaller. I just didn't have a vision for how I wanted to finish it. And I wanted to give myself the option for really embracing this material because it's so cool. So I don't know that I'm going to do this in such a way that it'll be so tight that you lose this. Like, the thunder is awesome. So I'm really pleased with that. Okay, so let's see what I've got in here. So for Laura's challenge, this is something purple. Yes, many colors of purple and violet purple going into blue. It's amazing. And also stitch something that's either magical or a mystical creature. Definitely counts. Got to be both mythical and magical if it's a purple dragon. So now I haven't been taking the pictures. I'm going to wait and see how far I can get in the month, so that, like, I wanted this to look like a dragon before I showed a picture for it being a purple dragon. And so my apologies to Laura and Carolyn, who are waiting for my pictures to go up in the Facebook groups, but I really am trying to get enough stitches in that they look like what I say they are. So I think this one's coming along nicely, and in perfect world, I have this finished and envisioned and fully finished for my husband for Father's Day. So that gives me till the 3rd week of June. Let's see how that goes. Notice I made this promise when he wasn't in the next room listening to every word. Yeah, I know. Smart on that one. Okay, so that was my first whip. My second whip is going to be, just so that you know, on Dragon Keeping Time, I have now stitched 6,130 stitches, which is 42%, so that's almost half done. My goal is to actually get that half done by the end of this month. I know, that's Easter Sunday for most of us, but I would like to do that. Where's my next one? My next work in progress is Quaker flag. So Vivian on Vivster on Etsy has created exquisite flags of the world, and yeah, and this is why I prefer to have notes, but here, they're Wombat, the Wombat Stitcher, somebody in Australia or New Zealand that has a wombat in their title for Flosstube is running a sale and has even had Zooms that you could figure out where all over the world people were joining in. You just want to be working on your flag. And so I had resisted for a while, but no, I got caught up in it. And, I love doing this. I love doing this. So my personal goal right at the moment is 1 Quaker box per week. If I can, get started on another one. I am stitching on 35 count opalescent white linen, and goes like this. No, it goes like this. And this is sulky thread. So for those of you who have patterns, many times between each of these patterns, Vivian had decided she was going to clearly mark off each of these squares individually. And so that black gridding goes into the other colors, including white. And at a distance, like when you see the pictures way back, they aren't model stitches because she didn't have time to do that. So these are just mock-ups. And you can't really see the gridding in the white stuff, but it's not how I've chosen to go. So my gridding is in maroon. It is there when it's close. Look at each one of those. Is that not amazing? Every Quaker is different. So far, every Quaker has had a minimum of 620 stitches. The white stuff is not stitched. It's the red stuff that's stitched. It would be quicker if it was the opposite. But you know what? She's brilliant. It makes the right effect. So right here, I've got 3 down. If I can get to 5 down, then I know what my range at the bottom of this is. If you remember my past conversations, I'm not sure that they really are 35 count, and it's actually, I mean, it's linen, so it's not completely even. So what it is in 1 inch isn't the exact same it is in the next inch, because that's linen. And it's okay, because you can't, like, when you're like this, you cannot see. The nice thing is this one doesn't have slubs. I don't have to deal with trying to just sort of play with those to make it a little bit thinner. But I am absolutely thrilled with this. So yes, so this is 1 strand of 12 weight silky thread. You only need like 3 or 4 colors for this thing. So I just bought a cone. And at the present time, where am I? So I've got 6 Quaker boxes completed in 5 weeks for 3,676 stitches, 7.6%. These stitches, this is not a, you're going to race through it. I understand why a lot of people have decided this is going to be their leap year sal, so that they're giving themselves permission to aim for this to be a 4-year project and have it due for the next time we have February 29. I get it. It takes time. But it's so much fun. Yeah, I'm not going to be setting, I do work on this every day. Okay, there's that. I've shown that. And that. Okay. It's just a matter of looking around and seeing where I am. It's weird not having notes, but I actually think I'll probably stay this way. If you notice a specific deficit that I always forget to do X, Y, or Z when I don't have notes, I need you to alert me to this. I also need to ask you to please alert me if the sound quality is not good with my voice and my piano music. I had one person saying on the last video she couldn't always hear everything. And I had never had that comment before, but I don't want a whole bunch of you missing out on things and just being so polite you don't tell me. Because that seems to be what happens sometimes too. You're like, thank you for being so kind. You can tell me if you cannot understand me. So I'm just, let me know about that. Yes, please. So 7.6% on my Quaker flags. And the next thing that I want to show you, I forgot to put on my list. So this is truly off the cuff. So I am doing the Modern Folk Embroideries Under the Stars. It's a monochromatic stitch. Really pick a material and pick a color of thread that works on it and you're good to go. There's no rules. And if you don't like monochromatic and you want to sit down and play with it, Jacob would be thrilled to see He likes to see what people have done when they tag him on Instagram or send him pictures. So my Under the Stars was started at my for my very first stitching retreat that was run by Evertote, and it was Jacob Palooza. And I felt that I needed to be stitching some Jacob. In the summer, in preparation, I had stitched, he has a pattern on his website that you just print off as a PDF, and it's called his 8 Biscornu. I found that those were the perfect way to get to know what it's like to stitch in Jacob's style. They don't give you a good idea or representation of what the size can be on some of his things, but I found them to be lovely, and I think I stitched at least 6 of the 8. I've given away all but 1, and that was enough preparation that I just went on his website and I printed off Under the Stars. And then I went to my local LNS and I said, aha, Blue Moon is the right name, and I love the color, and I know, quite honestly, Laura would have loved having this piece of fabric too. She loves her blues. So this is a 32 count Lugana, and they didn't give me the exact name of the manufacturer on my card. This is again sulky thread. When I hold it like this, it looks like I've got a beautiful cream color, like the lace on Grandma's wedding veil. But really this is a variegated thread. And I don't know if I hold it up close whether you can see it. Well, maybe a little bit. That it goes from almost pure white to quite yellow. So it's lovely to stitch with because you're not stuck with doing like thousands and thousands of stitches in a single color. Although I have to say it's really nice not to have to change colors. Sometimes you just need not to. I think there's a little bit of movement and depth when there's subtle, like I did not want the variegation on this to be wild and then not work with what this was. And so I made it a subtle variegation, but variegation nonetheless. So I love how I got most of this center part in this week. That was my focus. This is very fun. It truly is. And at some point will be a tapestry hanging in this room. Now, sometimes I wonder how I picked owl, because owls are supposed to be wise, right? And sometimes, not so much this one. I have been battling with my Under the Stars project off of, I can't even remember how many pages. It's got to be at least 9. I'd say 9. 9 pages of printout. And you know those marvelous spots where you've got all 4 pages coming together and you're trying to make sure that you've counted it right for that moment, but that it's going to match up to what it's supposed to be mirroring on the other side. And last week I went, oh, his stuff works in Pattern Keeper. Bingo bongo. I just had to say what color I wanted the X's to come up, and you just picked a color because it was monochromatic and he didn't care which color you put in. It's much easier to do it. Now, I have not taken the time to actually bop each of the X's I've already stitched in an effort to figure out how many X's I am, but if I did it for my owl, I bet at some point I go through and I start bopping those X's, because I'd be curious to know how many X's I've done so far. But very enjoyable. I'm just trying to get 1 or 2 threads in this every day so that at some point I can put the push on and have it finished by its 1-year anniversary. So I am going to have to recreate the bottom because the piece of material isn't large enough. So I might be half done already, or I might be nowhere near it. I don't know yet. To be honest, I'm a little scared about that because this is a Jacob piece, but you know, I'll find a way. Okay, so that was my modern folk embroidery, which I failed to stick down on here. So that means after that, I was going to come to, yes, you guessed it, my stained glass owl, Sharova creation on Etsy, of course. They have multiple stained glass options. I know that Sandi, Stitching with Sandi, hoster of many Zooms, lovely Sandi, who I hope is okay this week. She absolutely, what was I gonna do with this one? I was talking about Sandi and I got thinking about, she had a bit of a health scare that she was talking about last Sunday. And my point with stained glass window Sharova creations. Oh, she loves crows. Where does that connection come from? Oh, squirrel. So when I got my prairie birds, is there a crow? And I'm like, I'm sorry, no. But there is a stained glass window crow. You could make the partner for my owl. So Sharova Creations, great to work with. They leave their link open so that you can, if you screw up your computer, you can grab the pattern again. It's not a problem. They are wonderful to work with and the pattern is easy. When you're dealing with full coverages, one of the reasons that I think that a stained glass window is a great first big full coverage, even though I have done some others before, there's such a balance of lots of color changes, bright colors, and chunks. Because if you just feel like putting in black stained glassing, because that's just what you need to do tonight, you can. If you want to do that one biggest chunk, shard of glass, that is electric blue, and you want to actually put in 2,000 stitches of electric blue, you can. But likewise, if you want to be changing every 5 or every 15, there's a path for each of those ways, and I just think it's absolutely amazing. Now I am stitching on 20 count Aida in charcoal. I am using one strand of DMC. I'm following the colors absolutely and without question on a full coverage. Now last week we discovered that he had a beak to match to his eye, and I commented that I wanted, this was about the halfway point, like literally in here is a halfway, so this spills into the other half, that I wanted to get all of this side of the owl done before I started venturing over here. So that meant that I needed to start stitching feathers. And so you'll see that there's these gorgeous rich chestnutty feathers. This is not black. It is outlined in black, but it is like 311, so one number off of black, and one of the 900s is a navy blue. So like in certain lights you can really see that, I'm trying to see whether the light will catch it, but it doesn't really, that in here there is actually stained glass windowing that is just a dark blue. When I'm upstairs with the bay window, I can see it. And then I continued and I did some of these tawny colors. So these colors are being brought out from up here. And then I wanted to get this framework of the stained glass coming across and get into stitching 500 X's of 917, I believe it was. It's a magenta color, and it actually comes out kind of brown here. This is actually quite purpley pink. But I mean, I think like in here, these are brown, but there's spots where they've used absolute reds in there. And at a distance, you just never know. And yet when it's up close, this does not look pixelated. Like, this does not look computer generated without at least having an artist's eye. Because like when we come in, that's still really wonderful shading, isn't it? And there's even some moss greens mixed in here as well. Absolutely exquisite. So there is my owl. Now, we need to talk statistics with this owl. And I think I've best put on my glasses for this one. I just wrinkled my nose like a bunny. Okay, so on February 1st, I started the 25,000 stitches in 25 weeks. That sort of was thrown out to the collective stitching public from Jen the Caffeinated Stitcher, not Aria, Ailarra is also doing it. She's doing the Dragons of Sumatra, which literally has 1,000,000 black. It's either that or you stitch it on black. And some people just don't want to stitch it on black, so they're willing to stitch 1,000,000 black. But so she wants to get a lot of that background in so that she can start on the fun bits. She's not allowing herself any of the colors till she gets a lot of that black in. So God bless you, Ailarra. So I took that on, and on February 1st, I had 56,904 stitches in my owl. And today I have 75,188 stitches, and I'm at 46.99%. I tried to get it over the 99, and if 3 stitches weren't going to do it, I was just done. So it'll flip tomorrow probably with the first stitch. But I'm not close to 47, so I'm wondering if I can make it to 50% done by the end of March. That would be so exciting, because then I'd be starting to work on the other side. I am so excited. I really think that unless something wacky happens, I'm going to get this done in a year. Well, by the end of this year, it'll probably take it'll take almost 16 months. So there's a lot of calendars that include the 4 years from pre-4. So that's true. Now, but if I'm also talking about my owl with the magazine monthly challenge, they had the acrostic for hot air balloon. Well, let's see how many times I can get owl there. So hot is H, owl's hoot. O is for owl. Okay. T didn't work. A, it worked. Owls fly in the air. Yeah, I said that. I thought I was going to be able to use instant cross stitch pattern, but they haven't gotten it to me yet. I'm hoping it's not lost in cyberspace. I'll reach out to them later today. So I think I'm flipping it to ink circles. Yes, I think that's what I'm going to do, and I'll just alert them that I had to change it because of lack of ability to use it. So I could, but it wasn't going to work for this. R. I do not believe I got R to be for an owl. Balloon, so we have, no, the B didn't work. The A for air worked. There's 2 more O's that were owls, an N for being nocturnal. I thought there was one more in there. No, I think that's it. So it ended up that I had promised to do 2,450 stitches in 350 stitch swatches. I usually, but not always, get 300 stitches in a night on this. I had a few days that I wasn't at my best. I tend to be affected by wild weather changes, and sometimes what you guys don't find is so wild for some of us. Oh, going from snow one day to being in shorts the next day is too wild. So I only had like 150 stitches that day, but I've had some days that I've had over 500. Yeah. So I've actually already accomplished the 2,450 stitches needed for that, so I can post that soon. I do not think I used it for Laura. Huh, okay, look at that. And so those are my whips. And now we go to starts. Okay, so Garden Gnome by Nenny Design. They are an Etsy seller, and that I just realized that I did not print off the cover page, and this is probably one of those. Yeah, the patterns inside a tablet that isn't here, so I'm not going to leave. So the reason that I picked Garden Gnome by Nenny Designs is I really think gnomes are cute, and I wanted to get in on the stitching. We've seen a lot of people do gnomes, and of course we all know that Laura Stitching by the Shore is supporting the Ukrainian designers by stitching their gnomes. But her gnomes are actually gnomes, like they're big, and I wanted my gnomes to be smaller. So I actually looked for some, and I found some in Soda Stitch, and I found some in Nenny Design. So I decided I was going to do my first ever gnome as fitting the prompts for Laura's Facebook group, something about spring and something that has green. Well, this has both of those elements. And, you know, if I said ahead of time, you know, if I get it done, great, but otherwise at least 250, something like that. So this is my gnome so far, and he does not look like a gnome. I really try not to show you pictures that only have like 10 stitches in it and you don't have a prayer. So this is going to be a bucket that's used for flowers. This is the edge of his beard. This is his foot, and his outfit. I made it a greener green than they had because I was in a shamrocky type feeling, and made him kind of St. Patrick's-y, and then I discovered I had 5 St. Patrick's gnomes from Soda Stitch. I'm like, how did I forget that? Well, and then they went into Pattern Keeper too. Like, most of the things that I have had as a PDF have gone into Pattern Keeper either completely or partially. When I say partially, I have to put in some cases just the numbers of the colors, and in other cases I actually have to say 300, and then I have to find a scale of brown that I think I would apply to that. That takes more time, but it still doesn't take as much time as pulling things out the way I do when I'm working off paper. Yes. Okay, so this was purely, I've wanted to do a gnome. I had thought I was going to do a bumblebee gnome. I didn't find I had time for that in February. And then when we got to March, I'm like, I remember, Carla, I'm still going to be my own Valentine at some point this year. It's just not yet. I'm going to do this guy. So he is on 20 count cornflower Ada by Fiber on a Whim, 1 strand of DMC, and I'm going to tell you, this is another one. He's just going to be like this maybe, and so I'm not sure whether I'm going to make him into a flat fold or because my niece wants me to make her a personal tutorial of how I do my flat folds and how I do my lacing. And I'm trying to figure out whether I can make that and then say to you guys. So I'm not going to put it on my regular videos because most of you know, but if you're curious or you haven't been doing it like me and you want to try it, I'll post some of those. So you might have me as if I'm talking to my niece, because I'm really making these for her, but for you too. We'll see. But this was fun, and I had corn flour. This was left over from another pattern that I had. And okay, what are my... So I have in here... Okay, are you sitting down? This is 2,083 stitches. I'm not doing half crosses, I'm doing full X's. And now that I've got it here, do you see all the subtleties in the shading in that barrel that's going to be for the flowers? And I just had to try and get one flower in because I wanted to see whether the pinks, I'm trying to make them into petunias because I like petunias before they go all yuck. So I'm satisfied with how I picked those colors. But I just pulled from the stash because I wasn't going to take any greens out of things. And I have a cone of black, so I just make another loop of it for my next project. So I'm having fun with that. But this, like, understand that this is solid in here. And so if you're looking at this gnome going, oh, that's so much more logical than having a gnome that's like 12 inches tall or 16 inches tall. Understand it takes time. It's not necessarily a real shortcut for what Laura's doing. But then she says there's a heck of a lot of confetti in that. So maybe, well, we'll see who gets done the next gnome first. We'll put that out to Laura. Who's going to get done first? Okay, so that was a start. My next start, was peacock tree. The last time I showed you a picture, and I'm glad that I did because I don't have it with me. Carmen of Cardamom Pins is hosting a hashtag Jacob Sleeper Sal, where she's encouraging everybody to hunt around on the website of Modern Folk Embroidery and not oogle and ogle over the first page, even though they're stunners. They're absolute stunners. Go to the very back and see if there's some things that back there that are just hidden gems that nobody really seems to be stitching because of all the amazingness that Jacob just keeps going out with. Like, he's putting stuff out so quickly. It's like, how can one man do that and stitch it all? And he does. Like, anyway, so I said I was going to start my peacocks, and I did. And the peacocks went into Pattern Keeper. Wonderful. So it's supposed to be monochromatic, but it's not. So far I've got 2 colors in. These are Roxy Floss Co. colors. That's graphite, and I think this is called grassy. Now, on this, I'm picking my own out of, when I was at Jacob Palooza, they would have these little packs of 4 or 5 that they will say, oh, this is the Halloween Creeks combination, and this is the Autumn Sleeps, and like, those little packages are gems to just add to what you've got. Now, I really want to talk them into making Einstein a permanent green to black variation. It's perfect for stitching pine trees because you can actually figure out where you want the swoop to go, and it's just, the dimension is amazing with that stuff. But I think they only did it for a short run. So this, right at the moment, I started on the border. Did I do the entire border before I went in? No, and On this one, I'm not afraid of it not matching because it's not as random. So as long as I can count to 9, and there's some days that's open to question. But if I can count to 9, this is good because you change direction at 9. And you're looping it in. Like when I pulled it up close, that's just one long, and you can see that I'm going to put this grassy green on the outside. I'd originally thought I might do royal purple here, and I got the most gorgeous purple of Roxy Floss. And then it wasn't speaking to me. So this graphite is in here. Okay, hang on. Yeah, I had it the right way up. Good. So the peacock's going to come in here. So I started in a corner, and I don't know how I'm going to do the edge, so I wanted to give myself enough edge. I know Carmen's sitting there. You can do it. You can do hem stitch and just go around it. I might. Because if I did hem stitch around the 3 sides, then I could do a hanging pocket like off a mini quilt at the top, and ta-da, we've got a tapestry. And all we have to do then is get a dowel from, you can get just straight normal ones from places like Michael's or even Home Depot. They'll just say, well, how thick do you want it? And it's great. You can get dowels of any, they'll cut them off into the lengths you want and everything. Then you can just get a colorful bead, or you don't have to do anything like that at all. Like the tapestry is a really neat way of putting things up. And I do want to have a tapestry back here. You'll notice that I'm trying out those command strips, seeing how long that picture will stay up. My daughter painted that for me. She's talented, isn't she? So next time there should be a peacock, and the peacock is a 3rd color. I did pick an exquisite color of turquoise. If I start stitching it and it doesn't look good on this, I'm going to be like, oh no. But I would save that color because it's just so gorgeous. Now, what is this material? Well, I believe that this is also Roxy Floss Co. I'm just going to check my notes. 32 count light sage linen. Oh yes, this stuff is the best linen I've ever had in my hands. So it's somehow like, it is thin, but it's not too thin. It's got substance. Like that's one layer. You can't just see through it. But there is a bit of, like, it's just a nice thickness. I haven't come across any slubs. It's not perfectly even, so it doesn't have that perfectness of even weave, but it isn't far off. And so it's actually easy to count. I'm so glad I got a nice big chunk of this. There's times when they had their table, and if they had like a fat half sitting there, I'd be like, oh, I'd be ashamed to ask them to cut that. We'll just have to keep it together, and I take the half. I mean, other people do that, right? So that's for Carmen, fellow musician, and the sleeper Sal, Jacob's sleeper Sal. And then my next one after that, let's see if I can find my next one, is Una. This is an artsy housewife. She makes the cutest animals. Absolutely darling. She has new patterns that were just released in Nashville, but it wasn't Nashville. It was like Franklin or something like that. I can't figure that out. But she's got another one, but she's like she's got a bear and a fox that are just amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. So I contacted Elizabeth Savory and said, what you gonna start on your birthday? And Elizabeth, you have to love a girl who loves owls. Like really, she always wants to have an owl to be working on. And so, of course, she went to the Superb Owl event. She had to. And she has already started her stitching on Catherine Haberman's Parliament of Owls. This is one that I had my husband give me for Christmas, completely kitted up with Roxy Floss Co. And if I can say thank you to Roxy Floss Co. for doing a complete wind. This was my March break from teaching, and so I decided I wanted to have my hands on every piece of floss that I have. And I, of course, have many flosses from different dyers because I want to get to know if there is other things that I like. DMC is economical, but when I have a special stitch, what would be my go-to? Where would I go for that? And like I just feel you can't know until you've got the stuff in your hands. So I was undoing some of the over-dyed cottons, and they had pre-cut them into specific lengths of thread that actually weren't the length of thread that works for me. So yeah, I want to say thank you to Roxy for just making one long loop that if we want to wrap it around something and make it into 12-inch or 18-inch or 2 feet sections, we can do that. But I personally leave it on something and then I just cut off how much I need at that point. So Roxy Floss Co. and where am I? Okay. Now this, what I opted to do for this, having learned from making the bluebird too big and listening to my inner Kim, I decided I'm not making that mistake with the owl. The owl shall be done on 20 count Aida, but a really pretty color. And in that way, I get a sense of what it is. And then if I want to restitch it, like I almost want to play with this and make it into a Picasso painting, which sounds odd. The color that could be utilized, even just using it exactly the pattern she has, but Picasso's colors. It would be interesting to hang them side by side and have people just stop and go, well, what happened here? Like, who's the artist here? And what was she on that night? So, yeah, she was on a lack of sleep is what she was on. But what I'm doing here is I am sticking with the Roxy Floss Co. recommendations 100%. And to a degree, like this is what I've got done. And this is about 500 stitches already. Yes, indeed. So if I hold this up here, you can see that I started on the edge and I'm about to put another flower up there. I'm debating putting it in a pale yellow though, because I think it could look pretty in pale yellow. And then what we have here is the side of Una. So again, if you're somebody who goes, oh, that's a beautiful animal, but I always have a problem with all the shading in the animals. The Artsy Housewife has a way with this. You can't actually tell when I hold it back here. When I hold it in here, there's true patterning to how she has planned out the owl. It's actually easy to follow and figure out. Now, I'm going to be honest. Most people would pop the pattern on a photocopier and press enlarge it by 100%. The actual pattern in here, delightfully she gets a lot on a page. It's only 2 pages long for this pattern, but the symbols are quite small for people who are dinosaurs. But what I know is that she sells this on her Etsy shop. So I could see if I could import it. Well, I probably won't with this one, because hubby gave me this for Christmas, so I want to use it. But the next time I buy Artsy, and I have others I've already bought, the hard, yeah, I will buy it and see whether it works in Pattern Keeper. And I will let you know how that goes, because so many people have complained like they've got to go and get markup RXP because they can't get Pattern Keeper to acknowledge all this stuff. And I'm like, so far, as long as it wasn't Hardanger, it's fine. And I will admit that I have saved the original Dragon Keeping time, because Maria Brovko does have a way of adding 2 or 3 colors of back stitching that is that finishing touch that can never show in Pattern Keeper, but I don't believe it shows well in any of them. They're really for the X's. So one of the advantages of Knit Companion, and I'm only keeping the free side of this, is it just takes the PDF and you can scan it into PDF yourself. And it might not put it on a grid, but it'll hold it like that. So you can make it bigger and make it smaller and have all of the pages of the whole pattern in one file and not lose the page that has all the cool highlighting with the back stitching. Okay, where am I? My last start, yeah, I start a lot. Might be the other reason I didn't get any fully finishes done, is Willow Berries by Ink Circles. It's a very small start so that I have something for eye and so that I can play around with variegated. This is not Roxy Floss Co. And I'm trying ever so hard to not get striping of any kind, and I'm still getting striping. And I think this is where sometimes I'm like, it's almost easier to control that by putting in your own like 210, 211, 212 variants of mauve. Might be down from 210 instead of up. Than it is to do this, because I'm having to take an awful lot of time not to just go straight up and down, which is what causes the stripes. But what is the value of having variegated is that you can save time in your stitching by not constantly threading new and parking and all the rest of that stuff. But if I'm taking that time and putting it into the path that I'm making for the stitching, so I don't get any sort of striping, and I've had I was playing around quite extensively in here, and you can't tell. But that's what this is about. This is not a huge Ink Circles. This is a smaller one, Winterberry, and it could be done in 1 color, 2 colors, 3 colors. It's a grand experiment, and me getting to know variegated floss better, because I think each of us needs to do that in order to determine what our method of stitching is, whether we're going to do rows, whether we're going to do individual stitches, like how we're going to do those things. Okay, my Nashville envelope, yes. So my Nashville envelope came, and God bless Lindy Stitches. Stephanie, I live in Canada. We had this envelope in 2 different postal services, and from the day that you said you released it to the day that it was in my hands was only 6 working business days for the mail carriers to be shuffling it around. That's extraordinary. I was prepared for mine to take forever to get here, but you were on the ball. You got them out. I mean, really excellent service from Lindsay Stitches. You cannot be surprised that I want to do these little stockings. Now, I might make them smaller than they initially planned, but that's okay. I will do these in such a way that I can do a stitch along, start along, sew along, however you want to call your along, with the Stitching Scotty. I love her videos, and we were thinking about let's let people look at this and make a determination about what they can manage. Can you do 12 stockings on black even weave? Do you need to change it to a charcoal? Do you want to just do it completely differently? There's one time that for one of the Stitching with the Housewives patterns, it was supposed to be a black background, and I was fairly early, and so I went, no, I'm going to do bright blue. I did not know Laura yet. And I just adjusted things so that if it was blue, it was a complementary blue or a navy blue so that it showed up. But everything else works. Like this wouldn't necessarily have to be on black. But I'm going to have fun. I'm going to have stitch along with the Stitching Scotty, and in July, Christmas in July, I will do some sort of tutorial moment on my method. Now, I have invited my favorite Scotty who stitches to tell me how she does stockings, and I will absolutely love it if there's some steps that are different, because wouldn't it be lovely to have two different ways to watch on a similar size stocking and say, oh, I think I get what she's saying better than what she's saying. Like, sometimes we just need something in a different way. So I'm excited for so many reasons. Lindy Stitches was lovely. We got a freebie from the Tiny Modernist. I'm just going to hold it carefully. Live in Full Bloom. So this is a small, and we got the pattern, everything as a freebie in with all of our patterns from Nashville, and of course a sticker. And now, you know that I have enjoyed making three-dimensional items, whether they are blocks or whether they are pin cushions. Like, I've just had so much fun doing everything three-dimensional. And that when the blue flower came out with bees in the greenhouse, I was just like, count me in. I want to know how she did this. I know that this is Janine McGowan, and Janine does lovely short videos. If you ever just need a short video, she's the one. Obviously not me. Without a script, I went longer. How did that happen? Like, seriously. So ask her a question if you've got a question about one of her patterns, and then she loves to have people send her pictures of what they've done of hers, so that she can showcase them on her videos as well. So I want to do this as my summer 2024 project and see if I can start the stitching and actually finish the whole thing in the summertime. My first attempt may be on Aida cloth so that I can fully line things up by the holes in the fabric, because sometimes those are really helpful. But I'm going to have to look. I haven't looked at all the instructions. If there's a lot of folding of material, sometimes Aida cloth is not your friend unless it's a super soft one. And then I saved the best for last. I have never ever ordered or pre-ordered anything from this event, even though I knew it was in existence. There was nothing that made me want to put in an order. But when I saw this one, I did. And then, of course, there was no sense in paying $30 of shipping for one. That just didn't make sense. You have to have three patterns to make, I think, is logical. So, what am I talking about? in praise of pollinators. Look at the animals. First of all, how many smalls am I going to be able to get out of this picture? There's so much here. Every time I look at it, I find something new. So I did, like, this was just gotten. Now with here, the size is 165 wide by 195 high. And I have not fully determined what count I want to do it on. So the first thing that I do, I know my inner Kim is coming out. I actually calculate, if they don't give it to us outright, I calculate the sizes for the different stitches to see if there's a stitch like this that these are lovely enough to frame. Is it like 10 by 13 so I can fit it into an 11 by 14 frame with a 1/2 inch around? Like, is the stitch going to work into a standard frame size so that I might put more money into the floss because I can get a standard frame size? In some of the other cases, I'm going to go for the frame and be more economical in other ways. So I haven't quite determined whether I'm going to be doing it on a 20, which would equal a 40, or a 36, which would equal an 18. But it's one of the two. The thing is, I love this picture. And even though I think we're going to be quite tempted to actually just follow the instructions, because these animals are pretty carefully played out as to what color lands where, and Janine has a skill for it. Let's be honest. When somebody's that good, why would you play around with some of this stuff? But we still have the power to have this look different from person to person. So I am going to say that I'm going to start a sal. I know that I have been informed that Laura of Lala D Stitches is going to do this as well. She loved it as much as me. And what she has done is she has divided the pattern up into specific areas so that you will have a monthly assignment and complete it over a specific amount of months. If that is how you would like to do, go over and see. I know that she's on a mini trip right now, but she will have, her next video will address this. But I believe that that's what has been said is the commitment she's making to this. With the commitment I want to make it, I want it to be a little bit looser so that if, when you do sals, they are start alongs, you're only going to probably start it. Or it's a sew along that when it fits in, you do go like crazy, and when you can't do it, you can't do it. Like, or you might be a monogamous stitcher and go, oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to be done in 3 weeks. Like, all of those scenarios can be true and can fit into a looser sal. Now, I'm still going to join Laura's, and I'm going to say you can join both of ours. I do not know what the other title is, so I am hoping that hers is not going to be, hang on, I've forgotten what I picked. Did I write it down? Well, Shiver Me Timbers, I had a good one. I think I had it something like praising Janine's pollinators, so that her name was part of it. So hashtag praising Janine's pollinators, and I did not put an apostrophe in so that it didn't cause any kerfluffle with, I never know how much or how little to put into these. So I'm going to say, if you've already got your pattern and you want to start, start. If you want to wait until the hubbub of Nashville has all settled down and then you go and get the pattern, start it then. There's going to be a wide variance of starting, and I want you to be comfortable. And I want to put out an invitation. I would like to be able to include more of your work, and I would love some of it to really be specific to this stitch along. Yes, tag me. I'm the Stitching Owl on Instagram as well. But I would love to have the pictures just come to my email so that it's easy for us to drop them into these videos. And I just think the sense of community can really build, and that if you're somebody who really needs to stitch on 14 count Aida that doesn't have a lot of busyness in the background because of your eyes, I want you to do it and show us what that's like. Because like literally, whether you're on 14, 16, 18, or 20, some sort of wildly modeled background or completely neutral that you can't even tell the background, every one of these is going to look different. Every one of them. And that's even before we plan to make mistakes that are going to happen and rearrange things anyways. But I would love to be able to have your pictures to show. I really would. And now I need to move on. So I wanted to take a moment to show you some of my father's work. I have talked about how I totally love watching the Carolina cross stitchers, because it's got Kathy, who's a stitcher quilter, and Pete, who's a woodworker. And Pete just keeps the memory of my father alive every time I see something that he's made and people get excited about receiving it in the mail. So one of the things that my mother is doing right now is she's asking people to take some of these and divide them among the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren so that everybody has a piece of my father. Yeah. So he loved wildlife and he loved having a sense of humor. I think I'm going to put that in front of the black over here instead of in front. There we go. Now you can see it better. So that's a pelican. So he really liked to enjoy what wood had to give. What was the grain? Where were the knots? Let's not work around everything. Sometimes we work some of those beautiful things in, because even those things that are meant to break you can actually improve you and your beauty. Yes. And I love this. I'm going to put it in front of them. There we go. And like this is three-dimensional. You can see that his eyebrows and cheeks come out from here, and there's more than one level of wood there. And then my father likes using different kinds of varnish and staining to work with the color of the wood in order to come out with the shading that works. Like his eye was amazing. Sometimes when my mother and I'd be quilting, he'd walk in and he'd have a simple comment about a coloring, and it would cause us to stop and go, hang on, let's think about this. Okay, and my father was very interested in Aboriginal art. Any trip he made out west, he would buy the art from a store that represented the actual artist. And he would get limited edition screen prints and things like that. But he would also make, this is a firebird. So it's really cool. And all of these, he's drilled a hole here so that you'd know where to put one single nail in your wall. And he'd show you exactly where the spot was that was going to balance the piece properly, because there's an art in that too. And then, of course, an owl. He had to make an owl. So I just wanted to take a moment to share a little bit of my dad with you. This weekend, my middle child is coming to have Christmas with us. We haven't seen him since fall. And so he will be receiving some things of his grandfather's as part of his Christmas box, which has grown and grown and grown, because they had birthdays too. Okay, let's go on to a moment for music. Well, today's music is by somebody that is recognizable to all of you. I am the composer for this piece. I'm not actually here to actively sell my music, but every so often I think, this is a really nice tune, and I'm also not going to walk away from playing the pieces because it's my music. Yeah. So one of the things that I feel is important skill for me to give students when they come to me for piano lessons is the ability to express emotion through music. Now, we do this not just to make the music communicate to the audience when they perform. We also do this to teach students how to use their music as their own personal therapy on difficult days when they're adults. I don't expect to make musicians out of everybody, but I want to give them an outlet. I want music making to be something that carries forward into their adult lives. That's what makes me happy. So I wrote a book called Emotional Roller Coaster. I'll insert a picture here. And literally it goes through different scenarios where you're feeling different, whether you're feeling cheerful and joyous, or whether you're feeling lonely or you're feeling angry. Like everything can be put into music. It can. Your music can be therapeutic. Even if you think, I don't play like I used to. I don't either. But I'm not going to give up what I can do. So the piece that you're going to hear today is called Solitude. Solitude has the power to be exactly what you need in the moment, as well as be exactly what you don't need in the moment. It can be incredibly lonely, or you can have an incredible amount of company, depending on how you envision what's going on around you. So solitude is different to different people. And because solitude takes on a different color, when I composed the accompaniment to this piece, I added what would be called a discord note to the triads in the accompaniment. So there's just this feeling like everything's not quite perfect, but no, everything's not wrong either. It's thoughtful solitude. So here it is, and thank you so much for listening. And we've made it to that time where, oh, here's Puppy again, where it's best for me to say goodbye, especially now that I've made my longest video yet. I want you to know you're welcome here. I would love to have more people let me know what their address is so I can send you a card. I do love the fact, I actually think you guys are just being polite. Because if I ask somebody for their mailing address, they always go, oh, you're being so kind, and they give it to me. So it's, I think you just are shy about reaching out to me. So there are times where I just sort of randomly pick somebody who's left a comment out, and I will reach out to them and say, thank you for watching. Can I send you a card? And that's how sometimes we get some different additions to my Send a Smile program. But for right now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here today and for being here a day early without the usual parade that I have under any other circumstance. I'm going to continue my stitching. I'm going to continue keeping an eye on my Zooms with Stitching with Sandi. I'm just going to give you a sneak peek right now that something special is going to happen in the future. I am working with the marvelous Michelle and Cheryl of Two Bay Stitchers, 2 being the number 2. They live in PEI, and we are trying to get some stuff going so that there's something exciting to look forward to. So I'm going to say that's my sneak peek, and I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger with thread in your hand, fabric in hand, making something beautiful so you can make something. That did not work. This has always worked before. So make something beautiful so you can make yourself happy. Have a great day, and I don't mind if you laughed at me because I'm laughing too. Bye-bye for now.